I know who you are, she said, her voice suddenly sharp and clear. You're the reason my cousin attempted suicide. The words sliced through the pristine silence of our office corner. My rehearsed welcome speech evaporated from my lips. The new hire, this woman who had barely spoken 10 words during her entire interview, was now staring at me with eyes that burned through any professional pretense. 3 years ago, the regional art competition, my cousin was 16. You were a judge. I felt my breath catch as fragments of memory assembled themselves. A teenage girl with extraordinary talent, the envelope of cash I'd accepted, the scholarship opportunity I'd helped snatch away. She read your glowing feedback about the winner's originality, the same techniques you had criticized in her work, the new employee continued, her voice steady while my world tilted. Do you know what happens to a young artist when their dream is stolen by corruption? My throat constricted. That's a serious accusation. I don't know what you think. I don't think. I know. She turned to her computer, suddenly the picture of professional calm. But don't worry, I'm here to work. I struggled to breathe normally, to process what had just happened. This couldn't be real. After 3 years, after I'd nearly forgotten about that competition, this woman had appeared, hired by my own boss, seated beside me, ready to… What? What exactly did she want? She began typing, her fingers moving with practiced precision across the keyboard, as if she hadn't just detonated a bomb in my carefully constructed life. You can't prove anything, I whispered, unable to stop myself. She didn't look up. I don't need to. Wait, before I continue this story that's already got people glued to their screens, if you're enjoying this twisted workplace drama unfolding, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to catch more shocking true stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Drop a comment with what you think happens next. Trust me, you won't see it coming. My name is Pearl. At 34, I'd spent 7 years climbing the ladder at my marketing job, becoming the team leader who trained every new hire. My colleagues described me as meticulous, confident, always put together. I wore success like my signature scarlet lipstick, bold and unmistakable. What they didn't see were the shortcuts I'd taken, the corners I'd cut, the people I'd stepped on. I told myself, everyone did it. That's how the world worked. You seized opportunities when they presented themselves, like when a wealthy parent approached me about that art competition, offering cash to make sure their child won the scholarship. It wasn't personal. It was just business. Until Autumn arrived. Autumn was 28 with auburn hair she kept in a simple ponytail. She dressed modestly in neutral colors, spoke rarely in meetings, and submitted work ahead of schedule. My boss, Dale, had practically gushed about her portfolio during her interview. She's brilliant but quiet, he'd said. Perfect for our team. I wasn't worried. New hires came and went. Training them only secured my position further, until those first words she spoke to me alone revealed she was not just another employee. She was a ticking bomb placed directly beside me. The first week was agony. I expected her to expose me to Dale, to send emails revealing my past. I prepared excuses, explanations, denials, but she did nothing except excel at every task. She arrived early, stayed late, learned systems quickly. Clients adored her restrained brilliance. By the second week, I started giving her impossible tasks, a complete rebranding concept due in hours instead of days, client presentations with deliberately missing information, projects that had caused previous employees to crack. Autumn completed everything flawlessly. How are you finding your new team member? Dale asked me at the end of the month, eyes bright with satisfaction at his hiring choice. I forced my lips into a smile. She's adjusting well. Adjusting? She's exceptional. The Winslow account specifically requested her concepts for their campaign after seeing her preliminary work. The Winslow account, my account, the one I'd nurtured for 3 years. I guided her closely on that, I said, feeling heat creep up my neck. Dale tilted his head. She mentioned she worked on it after hours since you had her focused on the Monroe project. My smile froze. Right. Yes. She takes initiative. That night, I stayed late, waiting until the office emptied. When Autumn finally left, I slipped to her desk, searching for something, anything, evidence of her plotting against me, communications with her cousin, proof she was sabotaging me somehow. Her desk was immaculate, not even a post-it note with a personal reminder. Her computer was locked and company issued. Nothing seemed out of place except a small plant she'd brought, a tiny cactus, in a plain white pot. Frustrated, I returned to my desk, jumping when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Looking for something? I whirled around, scanning the empty office, the security cameras. Had she somehow seen me? I deleted the message, hands trembling. The next morning, Autumn greeted me with her usual quiet good morning as if nothing had happened. When I checked the security footage later, claiming I thought I'd left something at the office, the night guard showed me the feed. There I was, clearly searching through her desk. I asked him to delete it, saying I was leaving a surprise for her birthday. He agreed, but I wondered who else had already seen it. By the third month, my errors began multiplying. I sent incomplete drafts to clients. I missed deadlines. I snapped at junior team members. Meanwhile, Autumn's reputation soared. She never mentioned the art competition again, never threatened me, never did anything except perform her job with quiet excellence. That was when I began spreading rumors. She cornered me in the bathroom yesterday, I told Tessa from accounting, kept asking strange personal questions, seemed obsessed with my life outside work. Really? Tessa looked surprised. She helped me fix my presentation yesterday when the projector glitched. Seemed so shy. That's her technique, I whispered, two-faced. She has an agenda, I'm telling you. I tried variations with different colleagues. Autumn was difficult to work with. Autumn took credit for others' ideas. Autumn made uncomfortable comments, but like a boomerang, each rumor returned to strike me. Actually, she helped me solve that client issue. She gave me full credit in the meeting. She stayed late to finish when you left early. My credibility cracked while hers strengthened. I began having nightmares about the art competition, about the teenage girl whose paintings had shown such raw talent. In my dreams, the girl's face morphed into Autumn's, watching me with knowing eyes as I drowned in paint. 4 months after Autumn's arrival, Dale called us both into his office. I walked in confidently, assuming he wanted my assessment of her performance. Instead, he gestured for us to sit, his expression serious. We're restructuring the team, he announced. Given the growth we're experiencing and the new direction of our campaigns, we need to adjust our leadership approach. I nodded, already planning how to shift more responsibility to other team members so I could focus on strategy. Autumn, Dale continued, I'd like you to take over as team leader. Your work has shown exceptional vision and organization. The room seemed to tilt. That's my position, I said, my voice thin. I've been here for 7 years. Dale looked uncomfortable. And in those 7 years, you've never shown the leadership qualities she's demonstrated in 4 months. Pearl, you'll report to Autumn starting Monday. My face burned. This is ridiculous. You can't demote me for a new hire. It's not a demotion. Your title remains. But the reporting structure changes. Your recent performance issues are concerning, Pearl. Maybe with some guidance. Performance issues I'm having because of her. I pointed at Autumn, who sat quietly, hands folded in her lap. She's only here for revenge. Ask her about her cousin and the art competition. She admitted it to me her first day. Dale's brow furrowed. What art competition? The regional one, 3 years ago. I was a judge. She claims I took bribes to favor another contestant over her cousin, who then tried to kill herself. She told me this. Ask her. Dale turned to Autumn, confusion evident. Is this true? Autumn tilted her head slightly. Art competition? I don't have a cousin who's an artist. But you said, I sputtered, heat rushing to my face. You told me your cousin attempted suicide because of me, right there at your desk, your first day. Autumn's expression remained placid. I never said anything about art or cousins. I've been focused on learning the job you're training me for. She turned to Dale with concern in her eyes. Pearl has been acting strangely for weeks, checking my desk after hours, spreading stories about me. Dale's eyes widened. Is that true, Pearl? No. She's lying, My voice cracked as I realized how I sounded. The security footage, the failed rumors, my deteriorating work. I was concerned about some missing files, but the security team mentioned you reviewed footage from after hours, Dale said quietly. Something about leaving a birthday surprise? My mouth went dry. She's manipulating everyone. She's doing this on purpose. Dale exchanged a glance with Autumn before sighing. Pearl, I think you should take some time off. 2 weeks. Clear your head, get some rest. But this isn't a request, Dale said firmly. We'll redistribute your current projects temporarily. Said, I walked out in a daze, Autumn's voice floating behind me as she assured Dale she could handle the transition. My hands shook as I gathered my purse. Colleagues glanced away as I passed, their silence damning. Outside, The bright spring sunshine felt like a mockery. Had I imagined that first conversation? Was I losing my mind? No, I remembered every word. Her accusation had been real, but now she'd twisted everything, making me appear unstable while she remained blameless. The 2 weeks away became torture. I checked my work email obsessively, finding my team managing perfectly without me. Clients emailed Autumn directly with questions that once came to me. Dale sent a single message asking how I was feeling, mentioning the excellent progress the team was making. I drove past the office twice, watching employees laugh together in the parking lot. Once, I spotted Autumn having lunch with 2 colleagues who had previously been my closest work friends. When I returned, my belongings had been moved to a tiny desk in the corner, away from the main team area. My name had been removed from the project management system for our major accounts. My key clients now listed Autumn as their primary contact. Just temporary, Dale assured me when I confronted him, while you readjust. But nothing was temporary. Within weeks, I was assigned to smaller accounts, helping with minor tasks rather than leading projects. In meetings, my suggestions were politely acknowledged, then ignored. When I stayed late to finish work, the night guard watched me carefully, probably warned after my desk searching incident. Meanwhile, Autumn flourished. She implemented new systems that streamlined our workflow. She landed 2 major clients. She remembered everyone's birthdays, bringing simple homemade treats that made the office feel warmer. She never boasted, never drew attention to her accomplishments, which somehow made them more impressive. 6 weeks after my return, Dale called me in again. "I'm sorry, Pearl, but we're eliminating your position due to redundancy." The words hit like physical blows. Redundancy? You're firing me? We're restructuring. Your severance package will be generous. 3 months' salary, plus benefits through the end of the year. After 7 years, you're replacing me with her. Dale's expression hardened. This isn't about Autumn. Your performance has been declining for months. The issues predated her arrival. That wasn't true. I'd been a star performer until she came, until she started her subtle sabotage, her psychological warfare. Is she behind this? I demanded. Did she push for this? Actually, she advocated keeping you, said you had valuable institutional knowledge. Dale slid a folder across his desk. Your separation agreement. Take time to review it. I left the building in a fog, clutching the folder with white knuckles. 7 years erased. My career derailed. All because of a grudge about a teenage art competition that no one would believe existed. As I reached my car, a light tap on my shoulder made me jump. Autumn stood there, holding a sealed envelope. "What do you want?" I snapped, backing away. "Haven't you done enough? This belongs to you," she said, extending the envelope. I snatched it, expecting termination paperwork, but inside was a yellowed newspaper clipping. The headline read, "Regional Art Competition Winner Disqualified for Plagiarism." The article, dated 2 years after the competition, detailed how the winning entry had been proven to contain elements directly copied from established artists. Attached was a handwritten note. "My cousin starts art school next fall. Thanks for the severance package that paid her tuition. The money you took as bribes came back to her tenfold." I looked up, mouth open, but Autumn was already walking away. "Wait," I called. "You said you didn't have a cousin. You denied everything." She paused, turning slightly. "I never claimed anything to Dale. You did that yourself. You're destroying my life over a contest? It was just business, and this is just consequences." She tilted her head. "You'll notice I never exposed you publicly, never told anyone what you did. I simply created a situation where you exposed yourself through your own actions. Why not just confront me? Report me to the competition board? Why all this? Because you wouldn't have learned anything. You'd have denied it, hired lawyers, claimed vindictive accusations." Her eyes were calm. "This way, you lost your job by your own hand. Your reputation suffered through your own behavior. And my cousin gets her education funded by your severance package. IMU, which you'll notice is exactly 10 times the bribe you accepted." The precision of it all staggered me. "You planned this for 3 years? Applied for a job just to target me? Sometimes justice requires patience." She checked her watch. "I need to get back. The team has a presentation at 3. I watched her walk away, her purposeful stride carrying her back to what had once been my life, my career, my team. Only then did I realize the true extent of her revenge. She never exposed me publicly, never told anyone what I'd done. She simply created a situation where I exposed myself through my own paranoia and incompetence. The revenge wasn't just taking my job, it was making me destroy myself. That night, I drove to the beach, the envelope on the passenger seat beside me. Waves crashed against the shore as I read the article again. The teenager who'd won with my help had been caught, her reputation damaged. The ripples of my corruption had touched more lives than I'd allowed myself to consider. I thought of calling a lawyer, fighting my termination, exposing Autumn's vendetta, but what would I say? That I was targeted for accepting bribes in a competition years ago? That I had unfairly crushed a young artist's dreams for cash? The truth would only bury me deeper. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "She's painting again." I stared at the 3 words, understanding their weight. The cousin who had tried to end her life after losing the scholarship had found her way back to art. Despite what I'd done, she'd survived, was creating again. The salt air filled my lungs as I stepped onto the sand, shoes sinking with each step. The vastness of the ocean stretched before me, indifferent to human schemes and failures. For the first time, I saw myself clearly, not as the competent professional I'd pretended to be, but as someone who had caused real harm and was facing real consequences. I typed a response, fingers hesitant. "I'm glad." 3 dots appeared then. "Her first exhibition opens next month. The invitation is in your glove compartment." 3. I rushed back to my car, yanking open the glove compartment. Inside was an elegant card for an exhibition titled Resurrection by a young artist named Winter. The location was a small gallery across town. My hands trembled as I held the invitation, wondering how it had gotten there, wondering what I was meant to do with it. Another text arrived. "Attend or don't, your choice, but you should see what almost died because of you." I drove home in silence, the invitation burning a hole in my purse. Would attending be an act of atonement or intrusion? Did I deserve to witness Winter's triumph after contributing to her darkest moment? Over the next weeks, I applied for jobs half-heartedly, each rejection feeling deserved. I avoided former colleagues, knowing how they must talk about my departure. I researched Winter online, finding sparse information about a promising young artist whose work explored themes of betrayal, recovery, and justice. The night of the exhibition arrived, and I stood outside the gallery for 20 minutes before finding the courage to enter. The space was small but elegant, filled with people admiring large canvases bursting with color and emotion. I moved through the crowd like a ghost, anonymous in my simple black dress, and then I saw her. Winter stood near the center of the gallery, tall and poised at 19, her dark hair cut in a sharp bob that framed intelligent eyes. She didn't look broken or damaged. She looked triumphant as she explained her work to an engaged group of listeners. I approached slowly, drawn to a painting labeled Corruption. It depicted hands passing money above a canvas partially submerged in murky water. The technique was masterful, the emotion raw and undeniable. "What do you think?" I turned to find Autumn beside me, dressed in burgundy, a glass of wine in her hand. "It's powerful," I whispered. "Yes," she agreed. She painted it after reading the article about the winner's disqualification. It was part of her healing. I swallowed hard. "Is she okay now?" "Define okay." Autumn's voice remained low. She lost 2 years to depression, stopped painting entirely, questioned her worth, her talent, everything about herself. Because one person with power decided money. That night, I couldn't sleep. Winter's paintings haunted me, not just their technical brilliance, but the raw emotion pulsing through each canvas. One piece particularly lingered in my mind, a figure climbing from murky waters toward light, titled simply, After. I spent the following week in a strange limbo. Job applications remained unanswered. Former colleagues ignored my messages. I found myself returning to the gallery twice more, drawn to Winter's art like a penitent to confession. On my 3rd visit, the gallery owner approached me. "You've been here several times," she observed. "Are you a collector?" "No," I admitted, "just connected to the artist's journey." She nodded thoughtfully. Winter's work speaks to many people. The authenticity of her pain and recovery resonates universally. "Recovery," I repeated softly. "Has she truly recovered from everything?" The woman's eyes sharpened with sudden interest. "Are you a friend of the family?" "Not exactly," I said, backing toward the exit. "Just an admirer." At home, I opened my laptop and typed art therapy careers into the search bar. I'd never considered helping others through creative expression. My marketing career had been about manipulating emotions, not healing them. But something about winter's transformation called to me, the possibility that destruction could lead to creation. The next morning, my phone rang with an unknown number. Pearl speaking. I answered tentatively. This is Winter. The young artist's voice was clear, direct. We need to talk. Can you meet me at the campus coffee shop in an hour? My heart raced. Why would you want to meet with me? Why would you want to meet with me? Because Autumn didn't tell you everything, she said, and I think you should know the whole story. The campus coffee shop buzzed with student energy. Winter sat in a corner booth, sketching in a small notebook. At 19, surrounded by her peers, she looked both younger and somehow older than she had at the gallery. She closed her notebook as I approached. Thank you for coming, she said, gesturing to the seat across from her. I sat carefully, as if any sudden movement might shatter this unexpected moment. Your exhibition was incredible. You have extraordinary talent. I know, she said without arrogance. That's not in question anymore. A barista delivered 2 coffees I hadn't seen Winter order. She pushed one toward me. Autumn said you take it black. That seemed fitting somehow. I accepted the cup. What didn't she tell me? Winter traced the rim of her mug with one finger. After I lost the scholarship, after I tried to end things, I spent 6 months in treatment. During group therapy, I met another girl. She'd been the winner of a different competition, one where the judge had accepted bribes to favor her. I stiffened. I only did it once. Did you? Winter's gaze was unwavering, because this girl carried crushing guilt. Her mother had paid a judge to secure her win, but she hadn't known until afterward. When she discovered the truth, she tried to give back the prize, but was threatened with legal action for defamation. My hands trembled around my coffee cup. What are you saying? I'm saying corruption hurts everyone involved, not just the victims, but the so-called winners too. This girl and I formed a connection through our shared experiences. She from undeserved victory, me from undeserved defeat. What happened to her? Winter's expression softened slightly. She transferred schools. Last I heard, she was studying ethics and art history, planning to reform competition structures from within. She paused. Your actions created ripples you never considered, Pearl. Some destructive, some eventually constructive. Why are you telling me this? Because Autumn believes people can change when properly motivated. She orchestrated this elaborate plan partly for justice, partly for my healing, and partly, Winter hesitated. Partly what? Partly for you. I nearly spilled my coffee. For me? She destroyed my career. No, Winter corrected. You destroyed your career through your reactions to her presence. She merely created the conditions. That's semantics, I protested. Is it? Winter pulled out her phone. Tell me what you see. She showed me a series of images, screenshots of emails I'd sent to clients with errors, security footage of me searching Autumn's desk, text messages where I'd spread rumors about her. Autumn kept these as insurance, Winter explained, but she never needed to use them. You self-destructed without any push from her. Shame burned through me. So this meeting is what, my final humiliation? No, Winter put her phone away. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity. For what? The gallery where my exhibition is showing needs an assistant manager, someone with marketing experience who understands the business side of art. Winter met my eyes. Autumn suggested you. I laughed incredulously. You can't be serious. After everything, precisely because of everything, Winter interrupted. You understand firsthand how corruption destroys art's integrity. You've experienced the consequences of dishonesty, and now you need redemption. Why would you trust me anywhere near your art career? Winter's smile was slight but genuine, because having you work in service of emerging artists, including me, is a more meaningful consequence than watching you struggle unemployed. Autumn agrees. Autumn knew about this meeting? It was her idea, the final phase of her plan. I sat back, stunned. What plan? First, to make you face what you'd done by bringing me back into your life. Second, to let you experience the loss of something you valued as I did. Third, to give you a path toward restoration, not of what you lost, but of something new you could build. The calculated precision of it all left me breathless. She orchestrated every moment. My professional collapse, your artistic resurrection, and now this. This job offer? Not every moment, Winter corrected. Your choices remained your own throughout. You could have responded differently at each step. And if I had, different consequences would have unfolded. Winter checked her watch. The gallery owner expects your call by 5 if you're interested. The pay is less than your corporate salary, but the work has integrity. She stood, gathering her belongings. I remained seated, processing everything. Why would Autumn go to such lengths? I finally asked. Most people would have simply reported me to the competition board, sued me, or exposed me publicly. Winter paused. Because traditional punishment rarely creates change. Autumn believes in transformative justice, consequences that force growth rather than mere suffering. She shouldered her bag. Also, I asked her not to destroy you completely. I didn't want your ruin on my conscience. As she turned to leave, I called after her. Did she know I would come to your exhibition? Winter glanced back. She counted on it. Autumn understands people's psychology, what drives them, what breaks them, and what might heal them. Alone at the table, I contemplated the job offer. Working at the gallery would keep me surrounded by Winter's art, a daily reminder of my worst actions and their consequences. It would place me in a position of supporting artists rather than exploiting them. It would be both punishment and possibility. That evening, I called the gallery owner. She seemed unsurprised, explaining that Autumn had given me an unusual but compelling recommendation. I would start Monday, at roughly half my previous salary. On my first day, Autumn appeared at the gallery during lunch. She moved through the space with easy familiarity, examining new installations while I watched nervously from behind the counter. Settling in? She asked, approaching finally. It's different, I admitted, but good different. She nodded. Winter told you about our conversation. Yes, I straightened a stack of exhibition catalogs. What I don't understand is why you're continuing to involve yourself in my life. You won. Your revenge succeeded beyond what most people would dream possible. Autumn studied me thoughtfully. That perspective reveals you still don't fully understand what happened. Then explain it to me, I challenged. Because from where I stand, you infiltrated my workplace, systematically dismantled my career, exposed my worst actions, and now have me working essentially in service to your cousin's art career. Those are the external events, Autumn acknowledged, but they're not the revenge. Then what was? The true revenge was forcing you to confront yourself, not just what you did to Winter, but who you became by doing it. She picked up one of Winter's exhibition postcards from the counter. A person who accepts bribes once rarely stops there. Your performance issues predated me, Pearl. Your ethical shortcuts were increasing. You were on a path to much greater corruption. So you're saying you saved me from myself? I scoffed. How magnanimous. No, I made you experience the consequences of your actions in a way that might actually transform you. Traditional revenge, public exposure, legal action would have made you defensive, bitter, convinced of your victimhood. Autumn placed the postcard back carefully. This way, you had to watch yourself deteriorate through your own choices. You had to recognize your own corruption. And this job? Is this part of my transformation too? It's an opportunity, not a guarantee. You might use it to rebuild yourself into someone better. Or you might resort to old habits and lose this position too. She shrugged. That choice remains yours. The gallery door chimed as a potential buyer entered. Autumn stepped back. Winter's next series begins production next month, she said. The theme is resurrection. You'll be helping promote it. As she turned to leave, I called after her. Will you be watching me forever? Is this surveillance part of my penance? Autumn paused at the door. This was never about penance, Pearl. It was about justice. And justice isn't achieved through perpetual punishment. It's achieved through genuine change. After she left, I helped the customer who had entered, answering questions about Winter's techniques and inspiration. For the first time, I found myself advocating sincerely for an artist's vision, rather than calculating how to manipulate the customer's emotions for a sale. That night, I received a final text from Autumn. The revenge is complete. What happens next is no longer about Winter or me. It's about who you choose to become. 3 months later, Winter's Resurrection series opened to critical acclaim. Standing in the gallery I now helped manage, I watched her speak confidently to critics and collectors about her journey from despair to creative rebirth. Several pieces sold within the first hour, including one to the former competition winner who had unwittingly benefited from my corruption. After the opening, Winter approached me with an unexpected request. I want to paint you, she said, for my next series. Me? I was stunned. Why would you want me as a subject? Because transformation is my next theme, she explained. and yours has been instructive. I'm not transformed, I admitted. I'm still struggling with who I was, who I am now. Exactly, Winter nodded. That's what makes you the perfect subject. The struggle itself is where the art lives. As guests filtered out and the gallery quieted, I found myself alone with the exhibition. Winter's new paintings surrounded me, each one depicting some aspect of resurrection. In the center hung a piece I hadn't noticed before, a small canvas showing two hands, one offering something indistinct, the other hesitantly reaching to accept it. The title plate read, Second Chances. I stood before it for a long time, understanding finally the true nature of Autumn's revenge. She hadn't merely punished me or exposed me. She hadn't simply taken what I valued or humiliated me publicly. She had methodically dismantled everything I thought I was, stripped away my defenses and denials, forced me to witness the harm I'd caused, and then offered me the one thing I didn't deserve, the opportunity to rebuild myself into someone better. The revenge wasn't in what she took from me. It was in what she demanded I become. As the gallery lights dimmed automatically at closing time, I sent a text to the number Autumn had used. I understand now. The response came quickly. Then it worked. If you've been moved by Pearl's journey from corruption to consequence to potential redemption, take a moment to reflect on your own choices. Like, comment, and subscribe if you believe in second chances, or if you're fascinated by justice that transforms rather than merely punishes. Share your thoughts. Would you have given Pearl the opportunity Winter and Autumn offered? Sometimes the most powerful stories aren't about revenge at all, but about what happens after the vengeance is complete. The water bottle hit the wooden floor and rolled toward my feet, then another, then three more. I was standing near the presentation area when Sienna gestured too wide with her hands, knocking them all over. She paused mid-sentence, looked down at the mess, then looked at me. Could you get those? Not a question, a command. I bent down and started gathering them. The entire room watched. 43 people from Ashford Home Collection, the place I'd worked at for 11 years. We were 3 hours into the mountains at some retreat center, supposedly here to celebrate the upcoming launch of their new collection. Sienna was presenting her ideas for the launch party. She was 26. Her father owned the whole operation. Sorry, everyone. Where was I? She laughed, stepping over me while I crawled around collecting bottles. Oh, right, the gift bags for the event. Someone snickered. I kept my head down, reaching for a bottle that had rolled under a chair. My knees pressed against the wood floor. I could feel everyone watching. You know what this reminds me of? Sienna's voice rang out. My dog. My golden retriever, actually. A few people laughed, unsure where she was going. No, seriously. I taught Bruno to fetch in 2 days. 2 days. And he brings things back to me perfectly. She paused. You've been here for what? Over a decade? And you're still doing simple tasks like picking up after people? The room erupted. Not small laughs, big ones, the kind that make your shoulders shake. I looked up from the floor. She was smiling down at me, arms crossed, looking pleased with herself. My dog is literally smarter than you. More laughter, louder this time. I turned my head toward her father, Harold, who sat in the front row. He was grinning, his face red from laughing. He didn't say anything, didn't tell her to stop, just sat there, enjoying it. I grabbed the last bottle, stood up, and walked to the back, placed them on a side counter. Then I walked out. Nobody followed me. I could still hear them laughing as the heavy door closed behind me. I stood outside in the cold mountain air for a long time. The sky was that deep blue you only see away from the city. My hands were shaking, but not from the temperature. Let me go back. Let me tell you how I got here. My name is Lena. 11 years ago, I was 29 and desperate for steady work. My daughter was 5, and I was raising her alone. Ashford Home Collection was hiring someone to help manage their supplier relationships. They made luxury items for homes, beautiful things, wooden furniture with brass details, hand-dyed fabrics, decorative pieces that people paid thousands for. The woman who had the job before me was named Ruth. She was 62 and retiring. On my first day, she took me aside. Listen carefully, she said. The owners here, they're cheap. They don't want to pay for proper systems or contracts or lawyers. They want everything fast and quiet. So here's what I did for 20 years. And here's what you'll do if you want to keep this job. Keep everything up here. She tapped her head. Don't write it down. Don't put it in their systems. Keep the relationships personal. Keep them yours. That way, they need you. That way, you're not just another person they can replace. But what if something happens to me? I asked. She shrugged. Then they'll figure it out. But while you're here, you'll have a job, a real one. I needed that job, so I listened. Ruth spent 2 weeks with me. She introduced me to the factory owners she'd worked with. There was Prakash, who ran a workshop 2 hours outside the city, where they made all the brass fixtures. He had 3 sons, all working with him. She introduced me to the Chen family, who operated a woodworking facility across the border. Their grandfather had started it 50 years ago. There was Amita, who managed a place where 20 women dyed fabrics using traditional methods. There was Joseph, who could get materials faster than anyone else when things got tight. Learn their names, Ruth told me. Learn their children's names. Learn when they need money early, when they're struggling, when they're doing well. Treat them like people, not just suppliers. They'll remember that, and I did. For 11 years, I built those relationships. When Prakash's middle son got married, I sent a gift. When the Chen family needed their payment a week early because of new equipment, I made sure Harold approved it. When Amita's workshop had a fire and lost half their inventory, I called her every day for a month, checking in, making sure she knew we'd wait for her to rebuild. I remembered everything. Which workshop was fastest for rush orders, which one produced the smoothest finishes, which family needed gentle handling because they were traditional and didn't like pushy behavior, which one you could joke with, and which one expected formality. I never wrote any of it down. Not once. No spreadsheets. No contact lists. Nothing in the company's systems. Just like Ruth taught me, Harold never asked questions. As long as products arrived on time, he was happy. He never wanted to know the details. He'd just say, "Handle it, Lena." And I did. Over the years, Ashford grew. They hired more people. Fancier people. People with degrees from expensive schools who used big words in meetings. I stayed in my small workspace, making calls, sending messages, keeping everything moving. Nobody really noticed me. I was just there, the woman who made sure things arrived. Then Sienna graduated from college 2 years ago. Harold immediately brought her in, gave her a title, something about brand development. She started showing up to meetings, offering opinions, changing things. She was loud, confident, the kind of person who walked into a room and expected everyone to pay attention. She never spoke to me directly. I don't think she even knew what I did. To her, I was just someone who worked there, someone in the background. 3 months ago, Harold called a big meeting. He announced the Heritage Collection, a massive launch, complete room sets, furniture, fabrics, decorations, lighting, everything coordinated. They'd been planning it for a year, he said. They'd already taken advance orders worth millions. The launch was scheduled for 8 weeks out. It required 17 different suppliers. Some I'd worked with for years. Some were new relationships I'd spent months building. Prakash's workshop was making 70 different brass pieces. The Chen family was producing 12 furniture designs. Amita's workshop was dyeing fabrics in 8 custom shades. Joseph was coordinating materials from 4 different sources. I had it all organized in my head, the timeline, the quantities, the backup plans for when something went wrong, because something always went wrong. Nobody asked me about it. They just assumed it would happen, because it always did. 2 weeks after that meeting, Harold called me in. "Lena, we're restructuring your role," he said. He didn't look at me while he talked, just shuffled some papers around. "We've hired someone new to handle supplier relations. Someone with experience in global operations. You'll be supporting them, transitioning to more administrative work." Administrative work? I repeated. "You know, general support, whatever's needed. You've done great work, but we're scaling up now. We need someone with a more strategic approach." I felt something shift in my chest. What about the Heritage Collection? I've been coordinating all 17 suppliers. The new person will take over. You'll brief them. Brief them on what, exactly? There's nothing written down. He looked up then. "What do you mean, nothing written down?" "I mean, I've been managing all the relationships personally. The contact information, the processes, the history with each supplier. It's not in your systems." He stared at me. "Why not?" "Because that's how Ruth did it. That's how I learned. You never asked for anything different. You just said handle it. So I handled it. He waved his hand, dismissing it. Then you'll explain everything to the new person. Simple. It wasn't simple, but I nodded and left. The new person started the following week. His name was Trevor. He had worked at 3 other companies, all bigger than Ashford. He spoke in long sentences about optimization and efficiency. He asked me for the supplier database. There isn't one, I told him. He laughed. There has to be. There doesn't. He stopped laughing. I spent 2 weeks trying to explain how everything worked, but he didn't want to listen. He wanted lists and numbers and processes. He wanted me to just give him what he needed so he could take over. He didn't understand that you can't just call up Prakash and demand delivery dates. You have to ask about his family first. You have to remember that his youngest son just had a baby. You have to understand that the Chen family won't negotiate prices over messages. They need to hear your voice. Trevor didn't care about any of that. After 2 weeks, he told Harold I wasn't being cooperative. So there I was at the retreat, still technically employed, but pushed aside, watching Sienna give presentations, picking up her mess, being compared to her dog. I stood outside that retreat center for 20 minutes. Then I got in my car and drove home. 3 hours through the mountains, alone, with my thoughts. On Monday morning, I walked into Ashford at 8 o'clock. I went straight to Harold's workspace and handed him a single piece of paper. This is my resignation, effective immediately. He looked confused. What? Why? Look, if this is about what Sienna said, it's not about what she said. I'm done. That's all. But the Heritage Collection launches in 6 weeks. Trevor is still learning. That's not my concern anymore. I turned and walked out, packed up my small workspace. 11 years fit into 2 boxes. I carried them to my car and drove away. Thank you for listening this far. I know this might seem like just another workplace story, but what happened next changed everything. Before I continue, I want to ask you something. Where are you listening from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments. It means a lot to know you're there. Now, back to what happened. I went home and slept for 12 hours straight. When I woke up, my daughter was sitting on my bed. Mom, why are you home? It's Tuesday. Tuesday. I'd slept through Monday night. I sat up, rubbed my eyes. I quit my job, sweetheart. She was 16 now, old enough to understand. The place you've been at forever? That one. Why? Because they didn't respect me, and I stayed too long already. She hugged me, didn't ask more questions, just hugged me. I spent that whole week at home. I cleaned everything, organized closets I'd been ignoring for years, cooked actual meals instead of throwing together whatever was quick. I slept late. I didn't check my phone. It felt strange. 11 years of waking up thinking about shipments and delivery schedules and which supplier needed a call that day. Now, nothing. Just quiet. My phone rang constantly that first week. I didn't answer. 12 calls from Harold, 8 from Trevor, even a few from other people at Ashford. I let them all go to messages. The messages started polite. Lena, please call us back. We need to discuss your transition. Then they got more urgent. Lena, we really need your help with the supplier contacts. Please respond. Then desperate. Lena, the Heritage Collection is in serious trouble. We'll pay you for consultation. Name your price. I deleted them all. On Friday afternoon, someone knocked on my door. I looked through the window. Trevor. He looked terrible. His shirt was wrinkled, hair messy. I almost didn't open it, but something made me curious. What do you want? I asked through the door. Please, Lena, just talk to me for 5 minutes. I opened it but didn't invite him in. Just stood there in the doorway. Everything's falling apart, he said. I can't find any of the suppliers. The files don't exist. Nobody has contact information. The few numbers I found, when I call them, they don't know who I am. They keep asking for you. That's unfortunate. Please, just give me the contact list. That's all I need. I'll figure out the rest. There is no contact list. His face went red. Stop lying. You have to have something written down. Nobody works with 17 suppliers and keeps it all in their head. I did. That's insane. That's not how professionals work. I shrugged. Maybe not, but that's how I worked. And it worked fine. For 11 years. Harold will pay you whatever you want. Just help us. The launch is in 5 weeks. I'm not interested in helping. Have a good day, Trevor. I closed the door. He stood there for a few more minutes, then left. The following week, I started getting calls from the suppliers themselves. Prakash called first. Lena, what's happening? Some man called me yesterday asking about brass fixtures. He was rude, didn't even ask how I was doing, just demanded to know about production schedules and pricing. I don't work there anymore, Prakash. Silence. Then, you left Ashford? I did. But who will I work with now? I don't know. They hired someone new. But honestly, Prakash, maybe it's time to find other clients. Ashford doesn't treat people well. He sighed. They never treated me well. They treated you well. And you treated me well. That's why I stayed. We talked for 20 more minutes. About his family, about his workshop, about possibilities for his future. When we hung up, I felt lighter somehow. Amita called the next day, then Joseph, then the Chen family's oldest son, all of them asking the same questions. What happened? Who is this new person calling them? Where did I go? I told them all the same thing. I left. They should do what's best for their own work. By the third week, none of them were answering Ashford's calls anymore. My phone rang at 6 in the morning on a Wednesday. Harold. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Lena. His voice was strained. We need to talk. I don't think we do. Please, come in. Just once. Let's discuss this like adults. There's nothing to discuss. I resigned. You accepted it. I'm asking you to reconsider. We'll double your salary. We'll give you whatever title you want. We'll make Trevor report to you, instead of the other way around. I don't want any of that. Then what do you want? I thought about it. About Sienna's laugh. About being on my knees. About Harold sitting there grinning, while his daughter humiliated me in front of 43 people. I want to spend time with my daughter. I want to wake up without feeling sick about going to work. I want to be somewhere I'm actually valued, not just used. We value you. I see that now. We made a mistake. You made a lot of mistakes, Harold. For a long time, I'm done fixing them. The Heritage Collection will fail without you. We'll lose everything. That sounds like your problem, not mine. He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, harder. You're destroying this company out of spite, because of one comment from Sienna. That's incredibly petty. Something hot flashed through me. One comment? Harold, you restructured my entire role. You brought in someone to replace me after 11 years of me keeping your whole operation running. You never once asked how I did what I did. You just assumed it would all keep working, even after you pushed me aside. And then your daughter compared me to her dog while I was on the floor picking up her mess, and you sat there laughing. So no, this isn't about one comment. This is about 11 years of not being seen. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but it felt good. Really good. 3 days later, Amita called me. Lena, I got a strange call today from a lawyer representing Ashford. They said I'm contractually obligated to fulfill orders for them, but I never signed any contract with Ashford. I only worked with you on trust. That's because there are no contracts, I told her. Harold kept everything informal to save money. He can't force you to do anything. That's what I thought. I just wanted to check with you first. You don't owe them anything, Amita. She laughed. Good, because that man, Trevor, was so unpleasant. I have plenty of other work now anyway. Over the next few days, I heard similar stories from other suppliers. Ashford was trying to pressure them legally, but there was nothing to enforce. No signed agreements, no documentation, just years of handshake deals and personal relationships that died the moment I walked out. 4 weeks after I quit, an article appeared in one of the trade publications. Luxury brand Ashford Home Collection cancels major launch. The article talked about production issues and supplier problems. It mentioned disappointed customers demanding refunds for advance orders. It estimated the company's losses in the millions. I read it twice, felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, just nothing. My daughter came home from school and found me on the couch with my laptop. What are you doing? She asked, looking at job postings. Already. Money doesn't last forever, sweetheart. I need to work. She sat down next to me. Are you going to find another place like Ashford? No, I'm going to find somewhere that actually values the people who work there. Somewhere that sees what I can do and appreciates it. Good, she said. You deserve that. I smiled. She was right. 2 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. but it wasn't an Ashford exchange. So I picked up. Hello, is this Lena? Yes. My name is Katerina. I run a company called Belmont Trading. We connect craftspeople and small manufacturers with retailers. I heard about you through Prakash. He spoke very highly of your work. I sat up straighter. Oh? He said you spent 11 years building relationships with suppliers across multiple countries. That you understood not just the work side, but the human side. That suppliers trusted you completely. Is that accurate? I suppose it is. I'd like to meet with you. We're expanding, and we need someone who can manage supplier relationships the right way. Not just contracts and numbers, but real relationships. Would you be interested in discussing it? I thought about Ruth all those years ago. Keep it in your head. Make yourself irreplaceable. But maybe there was another way. Maybe I could build something better. Something where the relationships mattered, but weren't held hostage. Yes, I said. I'd be interested. We met the following week. Katerina's operation was smaller than Ashford, but growing fast. She introduced me to her team. 7 people, all around my age, all serious about their work. She explained what they did, how they helped small workshops and family operations connect with buyers who would treat them fairly. Too many companies exploit these craftspeople, she said. They demand fast work, low prices, no contracts to protect the makers. We want to do it differently. Fair agreements, fair prices, long-term relationships built on respect. That sounds good, I said. Prakash told me what happened at your last place. The way they treated you, that won't happen here. Everyone on my team is valued. We're building something together. She offered me a position. The salary was less than Ashford had been paying, but not by much. The title was Partnership Director. I'd work with craftspeople and manufacturers, building relationships. But this time, everything would be documented properly, protected, not just living in my head. I accepted. On my last day before starting the new job, I took my daughter out for dinner, just the 2 of us at a small place near our home. We ordered too much food and talked about everything and nothing. I'm proud of you, Mom, she said suddenly. For what? For leaving. For not letting them treat you badly anymore. A lot of people would have stayed. I stayed for a long time. Too long. But you left eventually. That counts. We finished eating and walked home slowly. The air was warm, the streets quiet. I felt lighter than I had in years. Starting at Belmont felt right from day one. Katerina introduced me to suppliers they already worked with. I reached out to Prakash, Amita, Joseph, the Chen family. They were all excited to work together again, this time through a company that would treat them fairly. Within 2 months, Belmont signed agreements with all 17 workshops I'd spent years building relationships with. Real agreements, with fair terms for everyone. I heard through Prakash that Ashford was struggling badly. The Heritage Collection failure had damaged their reputation. Big retailers were canceling orders. Harold had to let people go. They're trying to sell the whole company, Prakash told me. Nobody wants to buy it, though. Not after everything that happened. I didn't ask more questions. Didn't need to. 6 months into working at Belmont, I was sitting at my workspace when Katerina walked over with her phone in her hand. You need to see this, she said, showing me an article. The headline read, Ashford Home Collection acquired in distressed sale. The buyer was a large furniture manufacturer that specialized in mass production. Cheap materials, fast turnaround, nothing like what Ashford used to make. The sale price was barely enough to cover their debts, according to the article. That's Harold's company, I said. I know. Prakash told me about what happened there, about why you left. I handed her phone back. It's in the past. Still must feel like something, seeing it end that way. I thought about it. Mostly, I feel sad for the people who worked there and did nothing wrong. They lost their jobs because Harold made bad choices. She nodded. We're hiring, you know. If any of them reach out to you, send them my way. That afternoon, I got a message from someone I hadn't heard from in months. Trevor. Lena, I know I don't have any right to ask you for anything, but I just lost my job and I'm trying to figure out what to do next. Could we talk? Not about Ashford. About how you built relationships with suppliers. I realize now I didn't understand what you were actually doing. I'd like to learn. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but I remembered being 29 and desperate for work. I remembered Ruth taking the time to teach me, even though she was retiring and didn't have to. I wrote back, "Call me tomorrow afternoon." We talked for an hour. He apologized for how he'd treated me, for not listening, for thinking his fancy experience made him better at the work than someone who'd been doing it for years. "I thought it was all about processes and systems," he said. "I didn't realize it was about people, about actually caring whether Prakash's son just had a baby, about remembering that the Chen family doesn't like negotiating over messages. I thought those details were just small talk. They're not small talk. They're the actual work. I see that now. Too late, obviously. It's not too late. You just need to start over with a different approach." I didn't offer him a job, but I gave him advice, told him which companies might be hiring, explained how to build relationships the right way. When we hung up, I felt good about it. Not because I'd forgiven everything, but because helping someone learn felt better than holding on to anger. Spring came. Belmont kept growing. We signed 12 new supplier partnerships. Katerina promoted me to Senior Partnership Director. My daughter finished her school year with excellent marks and started talking about universities. One evening in late spring, my phone rang. Unknown number again. I answered. "Lena?" I recognized the voice immediately. "Sienna, what do you want?" I asked. "I know you probably don't want to talk to me. I understand, but I wanted to call and apologize for what I said at the retreat. It was cruel and unnecessary, and I've thought about it a lot since everything fell apart." I didn't respond, just waited. My father lost everything. The company, our savings, everything. We had to sell our house. I had to move back in with my grandmother. I'm working at a retail store now, trying to help pay bills. "I'm sorry that happened to your family," I said. And I meant it, not because I forgave her, but because I didn't want anyone to suffer that much. My father told me recently what you actually did at Ashford, how you held all those relationships together for 11 years, how none of it was written down anywhere, how when you left, it all disappeared. I didn't understand at the time. I thought you were just someone who did basic tasks. I didn't realize you were the person keeping everything running. Most people didn't realize. That's not an excuse for how I treated you. What I said was horrible. I compared you to my dog in front of everyone. I humiliated you. And my father just laughed. Her voice cracked. "I'm so sorry, Lena. I really am." I sat down. "This wasn't what I expected. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I understand now what I did, and that I'm sorry." We talked for a few more minutes. She asked what I was doing now. I told her about Belmont, about the work we were doing. She sounded genuinely happy for me. When we hung up, I felt something shift. Not forgiveness, exactly, but something close to it, like I could finally put that whole chapter away completely. Summer arrived hot and bright. My daughter and I took a trip together, just the two of us, 5 days at the coast. We swam and ate too much food and stayed up late talking about her future. She'd been accepted to 3 universities. She was trying to decide which one felt right. "What do you think I should do, Mom?" she asked one night while we sat on the beach watching the sunset. "I think you should go wherever makes you feel excited about what's coming next. Not scared, not uncertain, excited." She smiled. "That's good advice. I should probably follow it myself more often." "You did, though. You left Ashford and found Belmont. That took courage. It took too long. I should have left years earlier, but you left when you were ready. That matters too." She was wise, my daughter. Wiser than I'd been at her age. When we got back from the trip, there was a letter waiting for me. Official looking, from a law firm. My heart sank. Had Ashford decided to sue me for something? I opened it carefully. It wasn't from Ashford. It was from a company I'd never heard of. They were launching a new initiative to connect ethical manufacturers with responsible retailers. They'd heard about my work at Belmont. They wanted to know if I'd be interested in speaking at their conference in the fall, about building sustainable supplier relationships based on trust and respect. Me. Speaking at a conference. I showed Katerina the next day. She grinned. "You should do it. You're good at this work. Other people should learn from you." "I'm not a speaker. I just do the work." The best speakers are the ones who actually do the work, not the ones who just talk about it. I agreed to speak, spent the next 2 months terrified and excited at the same time. The conference was in a city 8 hours away. Large venue, hundreds of people. I'd never done anything like it. The night before my presentation, I couldn't sleep, kept going over what I wanted to say. When I walked onto that stage the next morning, my hands were shaking. But then I started talking about Prakash and his 3 sons, about Amita and her workshop of 20 women, about the Chen family and their grandfather's legacy, about what it means to treat people like human beings, instead of just resources. The audience listened, really listened. When I finished, they clapped for a long time. Afterward, at least 30 people came up to talk to me, asked questions, wanted advice, handed me their contact information. One woman waited until everyone else had left. She was older. Maybe Ruth's age would have been now. "I used to do work like yours," she said, "for 30 years. Then I retired. Watching you speak brought it all back. The good parts, I mean. The relationships, the trust. Thank you for reminding me why I loved that work." I hugged her, this stranger who understood exactly what I did and why it mattered. Flying home, I thought about the past year, about everything that had changed, about how being compared to a dog had somehow led to this, to work I loved, to respect I'd earned, to a future that felt bright instead of heavy. My daughter picked me up from the airport. "How did it go?" she asked. "Really well, better than I expected." "I knew it would. You're good at what you do, Mom." Finally, other people are seeing it too. At Belmont, things continued growing. We expanded into 2 new countries, hired 6 more people. Katerina made me a partner in the company. Actual ownership, not just a title, my name on the building. One afternoon in late fall, I was reviewing some agreements when my phone buzzed. A message from a number I didn't have saved but recognized immediately. Harold. "Lena, I know I have no right to contact you, but I wanted to let you know that I've been thinking a lot about my mistakes over the past year, about how I treated you and others. I'm working with a small furniture maker now, just helping in their workshop, learning the craft side of things. I should have learned it years ago. Anyway, I wanted to say thank you for the 11 years you gave to Ashford. You deserved so much better than how we treated you. I hope you're doing well." I read it 3 times, didn't respond, but I didn't delete it either, just left it there. By winter, my daughter had chosen her university. She'd be leaving in 8 months. We spent more time together, just the 2 of us, cooking together, watching shows, talking about everything. "Are you scared?" I asked her one night. "About leaving?" "A little, but mostly excited. Like you said, that's how you know it's right. You're going to do amazing things. I learned from the best," she said, squeezing my hand. The year ended quietly. Belmont closed out with the strongest numbers we'd ever had. Katerina threw a small party for everyone. We ate and laughed and celebrated what we'd built together. A company where people mattered, where relationships were real, where nobody had to keep everything in their head just to feel irreplaceable. Because being replaceable wasn't the threat. Being undervalued was. On the last day of the year, I sat down and wrote a list. Not of goals or resolutions, just things I'd learned. That staying somewhere that doesn't value you will eventually break you. That walking away is sometimes the bravest thing you can do. That the relationships you build matter more than the systems you create. That being underestimated can be painful, but it can also be fuel. That teaching someone who wronged you takes more strength than punishing them. That your worth isn't determined by how others see you, but by how you see yourself. I folded the list and put it away. Didn't need to read it again. It was already part of me now. Sienna's dog might have learned to fetch in 2 days, but I spent 11 years learning how to build something real, how to create trust, how to see people as people, not just resources. And when everything fell apart for Ashford, those relationships, that trust, that way of seeing people came with me. They couldn't take that away because it was never theirs to begin with. It was always mine. Thank you so much for listening to my story all the way through. If this resonated with you, if you've ever felt unseen or undervalued at your work, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps me share more stories like this one. Thank you again. I hope wherever you are, you know your worth. You know what separates winners from losers in this world? His voice bounced around the room where all 23 of us were standing, packed shoulder to shoulder like we were waiting for something good to happen. We weren't. Winners know when to celebrate their success. Losers make excuses. He had his phone in his hand, tilted just enough so we could all see the photo on the screen. A house. Not just any house. The kind you see in movies where rich people live. Stone walls. A fountain right there in the front, with actual water shooting up into the air. Gardens that probably needed 3 people just to keep the grass looking that perfect. This is what happens when you put in the hours, when you make the tough choices, when you build something that matters. Someone next to me whispered, "How did he afford that?" He heard it. His smile got wider. "Because I earned it. That's how." My hands were shaking. I shoved them into my pockets so nobody would see. 3 years. 3 years I'd spent perfecting the technical drawings for the product we were supposed to launch next quarter. The kind of work that lives inside your head even when you're trying to sleep. The kind that made me tell my mother I couldn't come stay with her after her operation because we were in a crucial phase. She said she understood. She always said she understood. He kept talking. "Now, I know some of you have been worried about the restructuring rumors. I want to be transparent with you." Transparent. That word tasted bitter, just hearing it. The higher-ups have made some decisions. Tough decisions. The kind leaders have to make. Effective immediately, this entire division is being dissolved. You'll receive 2 weeks of pay. We appreciate everything you've contributed. The room didn't go quiet because it was never loud to begin with, but something changed in the air. Like everybody stopped breathing at the same time. "Wait," someone said. Julio, who had twin daughters and brought in pictures of them every week to show anyone who'd look. "We're being let go? All of us?" "Budget cuts. You understand. These things happen in business. But we're 3 months from launch. We've been working on this for... The decision is final. Security will help you gather your personal items. Thank you for your service." He left. Just walked right out while we stood there trying to make sense of what had just happened. Some people started crying. Others just stared at the walls like answers might appear there if they looked hard enough. I didn't cry. I was too busy doing math in my head. My name is Claudia. I'm 31 years old, and for the last 5 years, I've been handling the money tracking for our division. Not the glamorous kind of work. Nobody asks you about it at parties. But it means I see where every single bit of money comes from, and where it goes. Every payment, every transfer, every deposit. 3 weeks ago, while I was going through the usual monthly checks, I found something strange. Money was appearing in his personal account from somewhere overseas. Not a little money. The kind of numbers that make you stop and read them 3 times to make sure you're seeing it right. 500,000. Then a week later, 700,000. Then just 4 days ago, a full million. I didn't tell anyone. I just kept watching, kept tracking. The overseas account had a name attached to it, buried in the transfer details. A name I recognized immediately because we talked about them every single day at work. Our biggest rival. The company that had been trying to beat us to market for 2 years and kept failing because our designs were better. Our process was better. Our 3 years of late nights and sacrificed weekends were better. Suddenly, they weren't failing anymore. 2 weeks ago, they announced they were launching a product next month that sounded exactly like ours. Not similar. Exact. The same technical specifications we'd been perfecting. The same unique solutions we'd spent months figuring out. Everyone in our division was confused about how they'd managed it, how they'd suddenly caught up and passed us. I wasn't confused. I spent the next week tracing where that overseas money came from, who authorized it. When it moved, I didn't print anything, didn't save anything on the work computers. I just memorized it, the account numbers, the dates, the amounts. I'd go home and write it all down by hand, then read it over and over until I could recite it like a prayer. He'd sold everything we'd made, every design, every improvement, every breakthrough that came from someone staying up until 3 in the morning because they finally figured out why something wasn't working. He took it all and handed it to our rival for money. Money he used to buy a mansion with a fountain. And now we were all being fired for budget cuts. Before I continue further, thank you for listening to my story. It means everything to me that you're here. I'd love to know where you're listening from. What city? What country? Drop it in the comments below. Now, back to the story. Security showed up 10 minutes later. Young guys who looked uncomfortable, like they didn't sign up for this part of the job. They started at one end of the room and worked their way down, standing next to people, while they emptied their drawers and packed up the personal things that accumulate when you spend more time somewhere than your own home. Julio was arguing with someone on his phone, probably his wife, probably trying to explain how they were going to pay for things now. Bethany, who'd been with the division for 8 years, just sat at her workspace crying silently while she pulled down the pictures of her kids she'd taped up around her area. I grabbed my coat, my water bottle, the little plant someone gave me 2 birthdays ago that I'd somehow kept alive. Everything fit in one bag. "Sorry about this," the security guy said when he got to me. "Not your fault. Still sucks." I nodded because there wasn't anything else to say to that. Outside in the parking area, people were standing around in small groups. Some were already on their phones, calling people they knew at other places, trying to line up new work before the panic set in. Others were just sitting in their vehicles, not turning the engine on, not going anywhere. I got in my car and sat there for a minute. My phone buzzed. A message in the group chat we all used for work, except it wasn't about work anymore, because none of us had work. "Did you see his social media?" The message was from Angela. I hadn't. I opened it. There he was, standing in front of that mansion, arms spread wide like he was hugging the whole world. The caption underneath, "Hard work pays off. Grateful for the opportunities I've created. Living the dream." Posted 2 hours ago, right around the time he was telling us we were all losing our jobs. The comments underneath were full of congratulations. People telling him he deserved it. People asking for career advice. People saying he was an inspiration. My phone buzzed again. The group chat was exploding now. Everyone was seeing it. Everyone was saying the same things. How dare he? After what he just did to us. The nerve. The absolute nerve. I closed the app. I didn't write anything in the chat. I drove home in the middle of the day, which felt wrong. The streets were full of people who had normal lives. People going to lunch. People running errands. People who hadn't just lost their jobs while their boss posted mansion photos. My apartment was dark when I got there. I'd left before sunrise that morning, like always. I turned on the lights and dropped my bag by the entrance and just stood there for a minute. Then I got to work. I pulled out all the handwritten notes I'd been keeping, spread them across my kitchen counter, started organizing everything by date, by amount, by where the money came from and where it went. There was a pattern. Every time our rival made an announcement about a breakthrough, there was a payment to his account the week before. Every single time. I'd heard through Angela, who kept track of industry news obsessively, that there was already an investigation happening. Not into our division chief, into our rival. Something about how they'd managed to make such rapid progress in their development. Questions about whether they'd obtained their advances legitimately. The investigation had started small, but Angela said they'd expanded it last week. More people involved. More questions being asked. I picked up my phone, put it down, picked it up again. There was a tip line. Anonymous. For people who had information about corporate wrongdoing. I dialed before I could talk myself out of it. A woman answered. She sounded tired, like she'd been answering phones all day and heard every kind of story there was to hear. "I have information about the investigation into the competitor breach case," I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. "Go ahead." I told her everything. The account numbers I'd memorized, the exact dates money moved, the amounts, how they lined up perfectly with every announcement our rival made. I told her about the mansion, about the timing, about 23 people who'd just lost their jobs while the person responsible was posting celebration photos. She stopped sounding tired halfway through, started asking questions, specific ones, asked me to repeat the account numbers twice, asked if I had proof. I work in banking reconciliation. Worked. I saw all the transactions myself. The records are still in the system. Can you send documentation? I don't have access anymore. They just terminated everyone. But it's all there. You just have to look. She was quiet for a moment. I could hear her writing something down. And you're certain about the connection between the payments and the announcements? Every single time. I made a timeline. The money moves. Then a week later, they announce something new. It happened 6 times. What's your name? I'd rather not say. That's fine. But if we need to follow up, you won't need to. Everything I told you can be verified. The banking records will show it all. I hung up before she could ask anything else. Then I waited. Waiting is harder than people think. Every hour felt like 3 days. I kept checking the news, kept looking at social media to see if anything changed, kept imagining that maybe I'd made a mistake. Maybe I'd read the numbers wrong. Maybe there was some explanation I hadn't thought of. but I knew I hadn't made a mistake. Day 1 after the call, nothing happened. He posted more photos, this time from inside the mansion. High ceilings, chandeliers, a kitchen bigger than my entire apartment. Day 2, still nothing. The group chat was full of people talking about job interviews, about how hard it was to explain why they were suddenly looking for work, about bills coming due and savings running out faster than expected. Day 3, Angela sent a message just to me. Not the group, just me. Did you hear? They expanded the investigation again. They're looking at financial records now, not just technical development. My heart started beating faster. Where did you hear that? My friend works in the legal office at the regulatory board. She said they got a tip that changed everything. They're going through banking records from the past 6 months. I didn't respond, just stared at my phone. Day 4, I woke up to 17 messages in the group chat, all saying the same thing in different ways. He'd been arrested. I opened the news app with shaking hands. There it was, his photo, the headline talking about corporate espionage charges, fraud, selling protected information to competitors. Government investigators had shown up at his house the morning before, seized everything, froze all his accounts. The mansion was gone, taken as evidence of proceeds from illegal activity. The article said he was facing 12 years minimum if convicted, maybe more, depending on what else they found. Our rival was mentioned too. They were being sued. The amount was in the billions. The article said the legal costs alone would likely destroy the company. Their leadership was denying everything, but the evidence was apparently overwhelming. I read the article 3 times. Then I read all the other articles covering the same story. They all said basically the same thing. The investigation had received a detailed anonymous tip that led them directly to the financial records. Once they had those, everything else fell into place. The group chat was chaos. People celebrating, people saying they knew something was wrong, people sharing the articles over and over like they couldn't believe it was real. My phone rang. "Angela, can you believe this?" she said the second I answered. "Can you actually believe this?" "It's a lot," I said. "A lot? Claudia, this is insane. He's going to prison. Actual prison. And did you see the part about the lawsuit? They're going after our rival for everything. Everything." "I saw. Good. I hope they take every last bit. I hope he loses that stupid mansion and everything else. I hope." She kept talking, but I wasn't really listening anymore, because there was another article, a smaller one, buried under all the breaking news about the arrest. The headline said something about contract violations and employee rights. I opened it. The investigation had revealed that all the work our division had done was protected, which meant our rival couldn't actually use any of it, which meant the launch they'd planned was dead. But more than that, it meant everyone who'd been fired had a case, a strong one. The company was already being pressured to bring everyone back, with compensation for the time we'd lost, with damages for wrongful termination. The article quoted someone from the legal board saying it was one of the clearest cases they'd seen. I sat down on my floor, right there in the middle of my apartment. "Claudia, you still there?" Angela's voice came through the phone. "Yeah, sorry, I'm here. Did you see the thing about getting our jobs back? Just read it. With 3 years of back pay. 3 years. Do you know what that means? That's not just getting our jobs back. That's getting everything. Everything we lost. 3 years. The number was specific. It was how long we'd all been working on the product that got sold. How long we'd sacrificed for something we thought mattered. "I have to go," I said. "I'll talk to you later." I hung up before she could respond. My hands were still shaking, but different than before. Not from fear or anger, from something else I couldn't quite name. I'd spent 3 weeks sitting on information that could have changed everything. 3 weeks watching and waiting and wondering if I should say something, if it was my place, if anyone would even believe me. And then I'd made one phone call, one anonymous call where I just told the truth about what I'd seen. And now everything was different. The group chat kept buzzing, more people joining in, more articles being shared. Someone found his social media and posted screenshots before he'd deleted everything. The mansion photos were gone. The celebration captions were gone. All of it just disappeared, like it had never existed. But people had saved it. Screenshots lived forever. Julio sent a message. "My wife is crying. Happy crying. We thought we were going to lose the house. Now this. Bethany sent a photo of herself smiling. First time I'd seen her smile in the 4 days since we'd all been terminated. My kids asked why I was home so much. I didn't know what to tell them. Now I do. Message after message. Everyone processing what this meant. That justice wasn't just some abstract concept. That sometimes the truth actually mattered. That waiting and watching and being patient could lead to something real. I didn't write anything in the chat. I just read what everyone else was saying. 2 days later, we all got letters, official ones, from the company, apologizing for the wrongful termination, offering our positions back, with full back pay for the 3 years we'd worked on the stolen product, with additional compensation for damages, with a guarantee that the division would be restructured under new leadership. The letter was 3 pages long and full of language that sounded like it had been written by people trying very hard not to admit fault while admitting fault. I signed the paperwork they sent over. So did everyone else in the group chat. We went back to work the following Monday. Same building, same workspaces, different feeling. Someone had already cleaned out his office. Everything personal was gone. The photos of his family, the awards he'd won, the little decorations that made it look like a human worked there. All of it just erased like he'd never existed. The new division chief was a woman named Patricia, who'd been brought in from another department. She called a meeting our first day back. I know the last few weeks have been difficult, she said. She didn't smile when she said it, didn't try to make it lighter than it was. What happened was wrong, completely wrong. I can't undo it, but I can promise you it won't happen again. Not while I'm here. She told us about new oversight systems being put in place, new checks and balances so one person couldn't make the kind of decisions he'd made, new protections for the work we did. Your work matters, she said. The product you've been developing for 3 years matters, and we're going to finish it, together, the right way. Julio raised his hand. What about him? What's going to happen? The investigation is ongoing, but from what I understand, the evidence is substantial. He'll face consequences, real ones. That was all she said about it. Then she moved on to talking about timelines and launch dates and all the practical things that needed to happen now. After the meeting, people scattered back to their workspaces. I sat down at mine and just looked at the plant I'd brought back. Still alive somehow. Still green. Angela appeared next to me. You're quiet. Just thinking. About how fast things can change. How one day everything is falling apart, and then suddenly it's not. She nodded. Feels like a dream. Like, I'm going to wake up and we're all still fired and he's still posting mansion photos. It's not a dream. I know. But it feels like it should be. Things don't usually work out like this. Usually people like him get away with it. She was right. Things usually didn't work out like this. But I didn't say that out loud. The first week back felt strange. We were all doing the same work we'd done before, but everything was different. People laughed more, stayed later not because they had to, but because they wanted to see something finished. The weight that had been sitting on all of us was gone. The news kept covering the case. Every few days, there was an update. More evidence found. More charges filed. His legal team was trying to argue that he'd acted alone, that nobody else knew what he was doing. But the financial trail was too clear. Every payment, every transfer, every piece of information that moved from our files to our rival's development team, it all pointed back to him. Our rival company was falling apart. Their stock dropped 40% in 2 weeks. 3 of their executives resigned. The lawsuit was moving forward, and everyone covering it said there was no way they'd survive. Too much evidence, too many violations, too much money they'd have to pay back. I watched it all unfold from a distance, read the articles, listened to my coworkers talk about it during breaks, but I didn't say much myself. Angela noticed. She always noticed things. You've been different since we came back, she said one afternoon. We were alone in the break area. Everyone else had already gone home, but we'd both stayed late working on final revisions. Different how? Quieter. I mean, you've always been quiet, but this is different. Like, you're somewhere else even when you're standing right here. I didn't know what to say to that. She kept going. It's like you're not surprised by any of this. Everyone else is shocked that justice actually happened, that he actually faced consequences. But you're just calm, like you expected it. My chest felt tight. Maybe I just process things differently. Maybe. She was watching me carefully. Or maybe you know something the rest of us don't. I don't know anything. I just saw the same news everyone else saw. She nodded slowly, didn't push, but something in her expression said she wasn't entirely convinced. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Angela had said, about how I wasn't surprised. She was right. I wasn't, because I'd known what was coming. I'd set it in motion, and I didn't regret it. Not even a little bit, but I also couldn't shake the feeling that carrying this secret was going to get heavier the longer I held it. That eventually someone would connect the dots, the timing, my access to the financial records, the anonymous tip that came right after we were all fired. I thought about telling Angela. She was the closest thing I had to a friend at work, but telling one person meant it wouldn't stay with one person. Secrets had a way of spreading even when people promised they wouldn't tell. So I kept it to myself. 3 months after we came back, the trial date was set. 6 months out, the news coverage said it would be one of the biggest corporate espionage cases in years. Multiple charges, multiple defendants, since our rival's leadership was also being tried. Prison sentences that could stretch over a decade. His legal team tried to make a deal. Offered to plead guilty to lesser charges in exchange for reduced time. The prosecutors refused. They wanted the full trial, wanted everything exposed publicly so it could never be buried or forgotten. Our product launched 4 months after we returned. The real version, the one we'd actually created. Not the stolen copy our rival had tried to rush out before everything collapsed. The launch was huge, bigger than anyone expected. All the news coverage about the case had created attention. People wanted to support the team that had been wronged, wanted to see justice in action. Our sales in the first week broke records. Patricia called another meeting. This time she was smiling. "I want to thank all of you," she said. "This product exists because you refused to give up, because you came back and finished what you started, because you're all exceptional at what you do." She announced bonuses, significant ones, based on the launch success, based on the company wanting to show appreciation for everything we'd been through. The room erupted, people hugging, people crying again, but for different reasons than before. Julio was on his phone immediately, probably calling his wife to tell her. I felt something loosen in my chest, something that had been wound tight for months. We'd won, actually won. Not just survived, but came out stronger. After the meeting, Patricia asked me to stay back. My stomach dropped. Had she figured it out? Was there some way they'd traced the anonymous tip back to me? "I wanted to talk to you about something," she said once everyone else had left. "Okay, you handled the banking reconciliation for this division under the previous leadership. Yes, that's detailed work. Requires attention. Requires noticing when things don't add up." I didn't say anything, just waited. The investigation revealed that the financial irregularities had been happening for months, which means they would have shown up in the regular reconciliation reports. My heart was pounding so hard I thought she might be able to hear it. "I'm not asking you anything," she continued. "I just want you to know that attention to detail matters, that sometimes the people doing the quiet work are the ones who see the most, and that I'm glad you were paying attention." She held my gaze for a moment, then smiled slightly. "That's all. You can go." I walked out on shaking legs. She knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. And she was telling me it was okay, that she understood. I drove home that night feeling lighter than I had in months, maybe years. The trial happened 6 months later, like scheduled. It lasted 3 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. Financial records, testimony from people at our rival company who'd received the stolen information, digital trails showing exactly when files were accessed and transferred. His defense tried to argue that he'd been under pressure, that the company had unrealistic expectations, that he'd made a mistake but didn't deserve the punishment they were seeking. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing came 2 weeks after that. 14 years. Not 12 like the initial estimates. 14. Because the judge said the betrayal of trust made it worse. That he'd had people depending on him and he'd chosen to destroy their lives for personal gain. Our rival's executives got varying sentences. 8 years, 10 years, 12 years. The company itself was dissolved. Assets sold off to pay the lawsuit settlements. The news coverage was everywhere. People calling it a landmark case. A message that corporate crime had real consequences. That you couldn't just steal and cheat and expect to walk away. I watched the sentencing coverage from my apartment, alone, with a cup of tea getting cold in my hands. When they showed him being led out of the courtroom, he looked smaller than I remembered, older, like the weight of everything had finally caught up with him. I felt something then. Not satisfaction exactly, not happiness that he was going to prison, just a quiet sense of completion, that a chapter had closed and we could all move forward. The group chat had been active during the trial but went silent after sentencing. What was there left to say? It was over, truly over. Life went back to normal after that, the kind of normal where you go to work and do your job and come home and live your life. Our product continued selling well. The division expanded. Patricia hired 12 new people. I got promoted 8 months after the trial ended, not to anything dramatic, just a step up in responsibility and pay. Patricia said it was because I was thorough and reliable, and the division needed people like that. Angela got promoted too. So did Julio and Bethany and most of the others who'd been there through everything. Patricia said she valued loyalty and perseverance, said she wanted to build a team that trusted each other. 1 year after everything happened, Angela and I went out for dinner, just the two of us. Something we'd never done before. "Can I ask you something?" she said halfway through the meal. "Sure. Did you know? Before it all came out, did you know what he was doing?" I took a sip of water, put the glass down carefully. "Why do you ask?" "Because you were the only one who didn't seem shocked when he got arrested. Everyone else was stunned, but you just seemed prepared." I could have lied, could have said I was just good at hiding my emotions, could have deflected, but I was tired of carrying it alone. "I saw the financial records," I said quietly. "The payments from the overseas account. I tracked them. I saw where they came from and where they went. I knew what it meant." She stared at me. "You knew?" "Yes. And you reported it?" "Yes." She leaned back in her chair. "Process this." "When?" "The day we got fired. I called the tip line that night." "You—" She stopped. Started again. "You're the reason the investigation found him." "The investigation was already happening. I just gave them the specific information they needed to look in the right place." She was quiet for a long time. Then she reached across and squeezed my hand. "Thank you," she said. "For all of us. Thank you." I felt tears building but pushed them back. I couldn't let him get away with it. We all gave up so much for that work. He had no right to sell it. He didn't. And now he's paying for it because you did something. We finished dinner, talked about other things, normal things, work and life and plans for the future, but something had shifted. Someone else knew, and it felt good not to carry it completely alone anymore. 2 years after everything happened, I was cleaning out old files from my apartment and found the handwritten notes. The ones I'd made tracking all the financial transactions, account numbers, dates, amounts. I stared at them for a while, remembered sitting at my kitchen counter spreading them out, remembered the phone call, remembered waiting to see if anything would happen. Then I shredded them, fed them through the machine until they were just tiny pieces of paper that couldn't be put back together. I didn't need them anymore. The truth had already done its work. Life continued. Work continued. I kept handling banking reconciliation because I was good at it, and it mattered. Patricia kept building the division into something stronger. Our product line expanded. We started working on new projects. Sometimes I'd see articles about corporate crime, about people getting caught doing the same things he'd done, and I'd wonder if our case had actually changed anything, if it had made other people think twice before stealing or cheating or betraying the people who trusted them. I hoped it had, but I knew that hope wasn't enough, that justice required people willing to speak up, willing to say something when they saw something wrong, even when it was scary, even when they didn't know if anyone would listen. I'd been one of those people, and I'd do it again, because some things matter more than staying quiet. Some things are worth the risk. Thank you for listening to my story all the way through. It's not easy sharing something this personal, but I'm grateful you stayed with me. If this story meant something to you, I'd love it if you could hit that like button and drop a comment letting me know what you thought. And if you want to hear more stories like this, real stories from real people who've lived through things that changed them, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Thank you for being here. It matters more than you know.